The jackhammer hit concrete at 8:17 a.m. The sound shattered the quiet street in Derby like a gunshot. Neighbors stood frozen behind curtains. Police tape fluttered in the cold English wind. A forensics van blocked the narrow road, blue lights flashing silently in the pale morning light. Officers had been digging for hours in the small backyard of a terraced house on Princess Street, a house that had changed owners, changed paint colors, changed fences over the years. But the ground hadn't changed, and something beneath it had been waiting 15 years. The concrete slab in the corner of the garden looked ordinary, just an uneven patch poured long ago. But when investigators pried up the first broken section, a smell rose from the earth that no one there would ever forget. Not rot, not exactly. It was the smell of a secret that had refused to stay silent. Detective Inspector Mark Hensley stood over the hole, jaw tight, eyes fixed. He had worked homicide for 2 decades. He had seen bodies in rivers, suitcases, car trunks, shallow graves. But there was something about a backyard burial, something domestic, intimate, that made it worse. One of the forensic techs knelt down carefully. "Sir, we've got remains." Everything after that moved slowly, controlled, precise. Because this wasn't just a body. It was a woman who had vanished without a trace 15 years earlier. A woman whose mother had spent over a decade staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring. Her name was Izabela Zablocka, and until that morning, no one could prove she was dead. 15 years earlier, August 28, 2010, Izabela stood outside the same house, suitcase by her side, phone pressed to her ear. She was 30, Polish, bright-eyed, restless. She had moved to the United Kingdom chasing something simple: opportunity, work, stability, a fresh start, and love. Her partner, Anna, had promised her that England would be different, better pay, a home they could build together, a future away from the economic strain they'd left behind in Poland. At least that's what Izabela believed. Her last confirmed phone call was to her mother. She sounded distracted, tired. "I'll call you tomorrow," she had said. Tomorrow never came. When Izabela stopped answering messages, her family panicked, but distance complicates urgency. Missing persons reports across borders take time. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Anna told friends Izabela had left. "She couldn't handle it here," she said. "She went back home. We broke up." It was clean, simple, believable. Except Izabela never returned to Poland, and she never contacted anyone again. For years, the case gathered dust. No body, no crime scene, no evidence of violence, just absence. And absence is hard to prosecute. Back in the garden, 2025, the excavation deepened. The remains were wrapped carefully, intentionally, plastic sheeting degraded by time, soil packed tight around it. The body had been cut in half at the waist, deliberately, cleanly. Detectives immediately suspected whoever did this possessed skill or experience. As the bones were lifted piece by piece from the earth, the weight of what they were uncovering pressed down on everyone present. Someone had killed her. Someone had dismembered her. Someone had poured concrete over her like she was part of the foundation. The house record showed something chilling. Shortly after Izabela vanished, renovations were done in the garden. Concrete work, paid in cash. Detective Hensley didn't believe in coincidences that neat. There was only one person left connected to that house from 2010, Anna Podedworna. When officers knocked on Anna's current door, she answered calmly, 15 years older, heavier around the eyes, but composed. "We found something in the garden of Princess Street," Hensley told her. She didn't blink. "I don't live there anymore. We believe the remains belong to Izabela." A pause. Not shock, Not grief, just calculation. I told you years ago. She left. Anna and Izabela's relationship was described as intense. Friends recalled arguments, jealousy, possessiveness. Anna had worked as a butcher in Poland before moving to the UK. She knew how to cut through bone. That detail lingered in every detective's mind once the forensic report came back. The dismemberment wasn't frenzied.
It wasn't chaotic. It was controlled. Deliberate force applied at precise anatomical points. This wasn't panic. It was problem-solving. The pathologist confirmed something even darker. There was blunt force trauma to the skull. She hadn't died from dismemberment. She had been killed first, struck hard enough to fracture bone, hard enough to silence her. The question was simple. Why? As investigators re-examined the old missing persons file, patterns emerged. After Izabela vanished, Anna had sent text messages from Izabela's phone. Short, vague, "I'm okay, need space." They had stopped within days. Phone records showed something else. Izabela's phone had never left Derby. It had pinged cell towers near Princes Street for 48 hours after her supposed departure. Then it went dark. Detectives dug into financial records. Izabela's bank account had been drained slowly over months after her disappearance. Small withdrawals, not enough to trigger suspicion, enough to survive on, enough to suggest someone was buying time. Anna claimed self-defense when finally brought in for questioning. "She attacked me," she said quietly in the interrogation room. "It got out of control." Out of control. That phrase echoed against the photos laid out before her. Images of a body severed in half and buried under poured concrete. Out of control didn't explain tape binding the legs. Out of control didn't explain renovations. Out of control didn't explain 15 years of silence. Hensley leaned forward across the table. "If it was self-defense," he asked, "why bury her?" Anna stared back. No answer. News of the discovery exploded across British media. Missing woman found beneath concrete. Cold case horror. But for Izabela's mother, it wasn't a headline. It was confirmation of a nightmare she had lived inside for 15 years. She flew to England for the first time to identify what remained of her daughter. DNA confirmed it within days. The burial site became a crime scene of national attention. Neighbors remembered arguments years ago, raised voices through thin walls, a crashing sound one night in late August 2010. One neighbor recalled something else, the smell of fresh cement the following week. At the time, no one thought twice. People renovate, people leave, people move on, until they don't. Forensic analysis of the concrete revealed layers. The bottom layer, the burial. The top layer, reinforcement. It wasn't impulsive. It was engineered concealment. And then investigators found the final detail that chilled them. Under the concrete slab, beneath where Izabela's upper body had been placed, there were faint scrape marks on the soil, as though someone had repositioned the remains after initial burial, moved them, adjusted them. Why? Because someone had gone back after the killing, after the burial. They had returned to make sure she stayed hidden. That wasn't fear. That was certainty. Certainty that no one would ever look there. When Anna was formally charged with murder, perverting the course of justice, and preventing lawful burial, she showed no emotion in court. No tears, no tremor in her voice. But prosecutors were building something stronger than emotion. They were building a timeline, motive, opportunity.
They uncovered evidence of escalating jealousy in the months before Izabela vanished. Messages accusing her of flirting, of betrayal, of planning to leave. Friends said Izabela had talked about ending the relationship, starting over alone, perhaps going back to Poland. Freedom is dangerous to someone who fears abandonment, and abandonment can turn into rage. The breakthrough came when forensic accountants discovered something buried deeper than the body, a life insurance policy taken out by Anna on Izabela, weeks before her disappearance. The payout wasn't enormous, but it was enough to make murder profitable, enough to make self-defense sound rehearsed, enough to turn suspicion into intent. When prosecutors laid that evidence on the table, the room fell silent, because now this wasn't a tragic fight. It was preparation, planning, premeditation. And as detectives prepared their case for trial, they uncovered one final devastating piece of evidence. In the attic of Anna's former home, tucked inside a sealed storage box, was the hammer, wrapped in old newspaper dated August 2010. Traces of blood still embedded deep within microscopic fractures in the metal. The DNA matched Izabela. The weapon had been above their heads the entire time. 15 years, sleeping above whoever lived in that house, waiting. And as the prosecution team stared at the lab results, one truth became unavoidable. Izabela hadn't just been killed. She had been erased. But someone made a mistake. They built her grave too close to home. And when they opened that garden, they didn't just uncover bones. They uncovered motive. They uncovered lies. And they uncovered proof that the person who promised her a new life had been planning her death. But the trial would reveal something even darker. Because what Anna told the jury about that night in August 2010 didn't match the evidence at all. And when investigators reconstructed the final 24 hours of Izabela's life, they realized the murder hadn't happened the way anyone imagined, not even close. And the truth about what really happened inside that house was far more brutal than a simple blow to the head. By the time the trial began, the story the public believed was simple. A jealous partner, a violent argument, a fatal blow, a desperate attempt to hide the body. But prosecutors weren't interested in simple. They were interested in the 24 hours no one could account for. Because evidence doesn't just tell you that someone died, it tells you how. And sometimes it tells you something even worse. The courtroom in Derby Crown Court felt suffocating the morning the reconstruction timeline was presented. Anna Podedworna sat still in the dock, hands folded neatly, eyes forward. She looked more like a school administrator than a woman accused of cutting her partner in half and burying her beneath concrete. The jury watched every movement.
The prosecution began with the last verified sighting of Izabela alive. August 28, 2010, 3:42 p.m. A small grocery store on London Road. CCTV footage showed Izabela purchasing bread, bottled water, and cleaning supplies. She was alone, calm. There were no visible signs of distress. But what caught investigators' attention wasn't Izabela. It was what she bought. Heavy-duty garbage bags, industrial-strength bleach, rubber gloves. The defense would later argue she was preparing to clean the house before returning to Poland. The prosecution saw something else entirely: preparation. But for what? At 5:11 p.m., Izabela's phone pinged a tower less than 300 meters from the house. At 6:02 p.m., Anna's phone did the same. After that, neither device moved for hours. Inside that terraced house, behind drawn curtains, something unfolded that no neighbor saw clearly, but many heard. A loud bang around 8:30 p.m., a scream, short, sharp, then silence. One neighbor testified that she had nearly called police that night. The argument sounded different, more frantic, more desperate. But she didn't, because domestic fights weren't unusual there, and because hindsight is louder than fear. The pathologist's testimony shifted the energy of the room. Izabela had not died instantly. The blunt force trauma to her skull was severe, caused by a heavy object consistent with the recovered hammer, but there were defensive wounds on her forearms, bruising along the wrists, signs of restraint, and something that changed everything. Microscopic fibers embedded in her fingernails that matched the carpet from the upstairs bedroom. She hadn't been killed in the kitchen. She had been dragged, and she had fought. The prosecution reconstructed the likely sequence. The argument escalated upstairs. Anna struck Izabela once, not fatally. Izabela collapsed but remained conscious. There were signs she had been restrained, electrical tape consistent with what was later found binding her legs in burial, which meant the tape wasn't just for concealment. It was used before death. The courtroom went silent when the medical examiner said the words, "She was alive for several minutes after the initial blow." Anna's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Forensic luminol testing conducted years later revealed something chilling in the bedroom floorboards. Despite multiple renovations, beneath new laminate flooring, tiny traces of blood remained soaked into the wood. Blood that had been scrubbed, bleached, scraped, but not erased. The pattern wasn't random. It showed pooling, movement, a body repositioned. Investigators believed Izabela had regained consciousness. There were drag marks consistent with someone pulling dead weight down narrow stairs, except she wasn't dead yet. And then came the detail that made even seasoned detectives uneasy. In Anna's 2010 work records from the meat processing plant where she was employed, she had taken 2 unscheduled days off immediately after Izabela disappeared. When questioned at the time, she claimed she was grieving a breakup, but co-workers later testified she returned calm, composed. One even remembered making a dark joke about clean cuts. It had sounded like stress relief back then. Now it sounded like confession disguised as humor. The dismemberment timeline was even damning. Forensic anthropologists testified that the torso was separated post-mortem, but with controlled force and anatomical awareness, not rage, not panic, precision. The cuts avoided major bone splintering. They followed joint lines. Whoever did it knew exactly where to apply pressure. Anna had spent years working as a butcher. She understood bone structure. She understood leverage. The prosecution didn't need to say it outright. The jury could see it. This wasn't someone spiraling. This was someone methodical. Then came the financial evidence. 3 weeks before Izabela's death, Anna had quietly increased the life insurance coverage. Not dramatically, just enough to raise eyebrows when combined with everything else. And days after Izabela vanished, Anna began withdrawing small amounts from Izabela's account using her debit card. The defense claimed Izabela had given permission before leaving, but CCTV footage from an ATM told a different story. Anna wore a hood, sunglasses at night. She withdrew $200, looked directly at the camera for half a second. That image froze in court. Not grief, not fear, awareness. She knew what she was doing. But the most devastating testimony came from Forensic Digital. Investigators recovered deleted drafts from Anna's old laptop, saved but never sent emails. One read, "She thinks she can leave me like I'm nothing." Another,
"If I can't have her, no one will." The defense argued emotional venting. The prosecution argued motive. And then they revealed something the public hadn't known. 2 days before her disappearance, Izabela had contacted a rental agency. She was looking for a studio flat. Alone. She wasn't going back to Poland. She was leaving Anna. And Anna had found out. Because in the laptop's browser history was a search made late at night on August 27th. How long before a missing person is declared dead, UK? The courtroom air shifted. The jury members exchanged glances, because that wasn't heartbreak. That was research. When Anna finally took the stand in her own defense, her voice was steady. "She attacked me first," she insisted. "She threw something at me. I lost control." The prosecutor approached slowly. "You lost control for 15 years?" Silence. "You lost control when you taped her wrists?" No response. "You lost control when you cut her body in half?" Anna's composure cracked, just slightly. Tears pooled but did not fall. "It wasn't like that," she whispered. Then what was it like? That question hung heavy in the courtroom, because evidence painted something colder than rage. It painted containment, elimination, erasure. But just when the prosecution believed their case was airtight, the defense introduced something unexpected. A witness from Poland, a former partner of Izabela's. He testified that Izabela had once accused Anna of violent outbursts, of threats, of obsession. But he also revealed something else. Izabela had been planning to expose Anna for financial fraud connected to false employment claims when they first moved to the UK. Fraud that could have resulted in deportation. Suddenly, the motive wasn't just jealousy, it was self-preservation. If Izabela left and spoke, Anna's entire life could unravel. Freedom, money, immigration status, all of it at risk. And that shifted everything. Because now the jury wasn't just looking at a domestic argument. They were looking at someone who had everything to lose. Then came the final forensic revelation of Chapter 2. Beneath the concrete, under layers of soil, investigators found something small, almost missed. A gold necklace chain tangled near the ribcage. Broken. The clasp snapped violently. It matched one Izabela's mother had given her before she left Poland. But the break pattern showed tension, forceful pulling. It wasn't removed gently. It was ripped, likely during struggle. And embedded in the broken clasp were microscopic skin cells, not Izabela's, Anna's. Which meant, at some point during that violent night, they were face to face, hands on each other, fighting for control. The prosecution ended the week with one sentence. This was not a moment of fear. This was a decision. But as the jury deliberated, something unsettled the lead detective, because there was one piece of the timeline that still didn't fit. Phone data showed Anna's mobile leaving the house at 3:17 a.m. the night Izabela disappeared, driving 5 miles east, stopping for 11 minutes, then returning. At the time, police assumed she disposed of something: clothing, tools, evidence. But they hadn't found what she dropped. And when investigators searched that stretch of roadside woodland years later, they uncovered a shallow pit. Empty, disturbed earth, as if something had been buried there first, then moved, which raised a terrifying possibility. Izabela may not have been buried in the garden immediately. She may have been kept somewhere else, for hours or longer. And if that was true, then the version of events anyone imagined, the quick blow, the panic, the cover-up, was wrong. Because this wasn't just murder. It might have been captivity before death. And if the jury believed that, Anna wasn't just guilty. She was far more dangerous than anyone realized. The verdict was coming, but the truth was still unfolding. And what the jury would hear next would make the entire courtroom question how close evil can live next door. By the time closing arguments began, the courtroom didn't feel like a place of law. It felt like a pressure chamber. 15 years of silence had been ripped open in a matter of weeks. Every photograph, every forensic diagram, every cold clinical detail of what had happened inside that small terraced house had settled over the jury like ash. But one question still lingered in the air. Was this murder, or was it something even more calculated? Because as prosecutors prepared their final push, investigators uncovered the one detail Anna had never expected anyone to find. And it wasn't under the concrete. It was in her past. The prosecution's closing statement was quiet, controlled. No one pours concrete in the dark unless they're trying to bury more than a body. They're burying the truth. He walked them back through the timeline. The life insurance increase, the internet searches, the ATM withdrawals, the tape, the precision of the dismemberment, the hammer wrapped in newspaper. Not chaos, not panic, control. And then he dropped the detail that reframed everything. During a deep financial audit, investigators discovered that just months before Izabela disappeared, Anna had applied for a joint property loan using falsified income documents. Documents that bore Izabela's forged signature. If Izabela left, if she reported it, Anna could face fraud charges, prison, deportation, ruin.
And according to email drafts recovered from Izabela's old account, she had found out. One unsent message to a friend read, "I think she's lied about everything. I don't feel safe confronting her." That sentence echoed in the courtroom. I don't feel safe. The defense objected to the emotional weight of it, but the jury had already heard it, and they couldn't unhear it. Anna's defense team tried to regain ground. They argued toxic relationship, mutual volatility, a fight spiraling out of control. They leaned heavily on the claim of self-defense. But self-defense doesn't usually involve life insurance increases. It doesn't involve researching decomposition rates. It doesn't involve dragging a body upstairs, restraining it, and methodically dismembering it over the course of hours. And then came the final forensic twist. During enhanced analysis of Anna's old laptop, using modern recovery tools unavailable in 2010, cyber specialists retrieved fragments of deleted video files. The files were corrupted, damaged, but timestamps told investigators something disturbing. Between 11:48 p.m. and 1:12 a.m. the night Izabela died, Anna's webcam had been activated multiple times. No full footage survived, but still frames did. Blurry, grainy. In one image, a shape could be seen on the bedroom floor, human, motionless. And in another frame, time-stamped 12:26 a.m., Anna appeared partially in view, standing, looking downward. The prosecution didn't need to show more. The implication was enough. This wasn't panic. This wasn't fear. This was documentation. Why would someone record that moment? For leverage? For memory? For control? No one knew. But the existence of those fragments shattered any illusion of a spontaneous act. The jury deliberated for just over 7 hours. 7 hours to weigh 15 years. 7 hours to decide whether Izabela Zablocka's final night had been rage or design. Anna waited in a holding cell, still calm, still composed, as if she had rehearsed this moment. When the jury filed back in, the room seemed smaller. The clerk asked the foreperson to stand. On the count of murder, how do you find? The pause felt endless. Guilty. No reaction from Anna. On the count of perverting the course of justice, guilty. On the count of preventing lawful burial, guilty.
A single sound broke the silence. Izabela's mother sobbing softly from the gallery. 15 years of not knowing had ended. But closure is never clean. Because the victim impact statements revealed something even darker. In victim impact statements, the prosecution read letters from Izabela's family. Her mother spoke of waiting by the phone, of birthdays celebrated with an empty chair, of dreams where Izabela came home and said it had all been a mistake. She looked at Anna directly and asked one question: "Why didn't you let her leave?" Anna didn't answer. She never did. But the judge's sentencing remarks cut deeper than any response could have. This was not merely a killing. It was the systematic erasure of a human being. You attempted to remove her from existence, physically, financially, and emotionally. You treated her life as an inconvenience to be managed.
He sentenced Anna to life imprisonment, minimum term 24 years. But even as she was led away, something unsettled Detective Hensley. Because the woodland site, the one her phone had pinged at 3:17 a.m., still bothered him. The shallow, disturbed earth, the sense that something had once been there. And weeks after sentencing, forensic teams returned one last time. They dug deeper, far deeper than before. And this time, they found it. Not a body, not clothing, but a metal toolbox, rusting, sealed. Inside were items wrapped carefully in plastic. Izabela's passport, her birth certificate, a second mobile phone, and a handwritten notebook. The notebook belonged to Anna, and its contents were chilling. It wasn't a diary, it was a plan. Pages outlining debts, immigration concerns, timelines, calculations of insurance payouts, notes about exit strategies, and one line circled heavily in ink: concrete sets in 24 to 48 hours. The date at the top of that page? August 20th, 2010, 8 days before Izabela disappeared. The murder hadn't been spontaneous. It hadn't even been a last-minute decision. It had been drafted, planned, timed. The argument that night? Likely staged. The fight? Engineered. Izabela hadn't just been killed. She had been lured into a final confrontation she didn't know she was walking into. The discovery of the notebook wasn't needed for conviction, but it changed the emotional weight of the case, because now the narrative was undeniable. Anna hadn't snapped. She had prepared. She had chosen a method she understood. She had used skills from her profession. She had researched concealment. She had increased insurance coverage. She had forged documents, and she had buried everything, including evidence, in layers. Except one thing: time. Time erodes secrets. Concrete cracks. Technology evolves. And 15 years later, a routine property redevelopment inquiry triggered ground scans that revealed density differences beneath that garden slab. If that redevelopment application had never been filed, Izabela might still be there, unfound, unspoken, unmourned. As the case closed, media headlines declared justice served, but for those closest to it, the word justice felt fragile. Because no sentence gives back 15 years, no verdict restores stolen time, and no prison cell explains why someone chooses control over compassion. In a final interview after sentencing, Detective Hensley was asked what stayed with him most. He didn't mention the dismemberment, or the concrete, or the notebook. He said this: "She thought if she built her house over the truth, it would hold forever. But foundations built on lies always crack." Anna Podedworna began her life sentence believing the story was over. But in prison, something unexpected happened. Another inmate came forward months later, claiming Anna had bragged, claiming there was more than one plan, more than one target. Investigators reopened archived complaints, old reports of domestic disturbances tied to Anna before Izabela. Nothing proven,
nothing charged, but patterns. And patterns are dangerous. Because if Izabela had tried to leave and paid with her life, how many others had come close? The public believed the monster was locked away, the chapter closed, the danger contained. But as files were quietly re-examined, one fact chilled detectives more than anything else. In Anna's notebook, beneath the insurance calculations, beneath the concrete notes, beneath the timelines, there was a second name, crossed out, underlined once, then scratched through so hard the paper nearly tore. Investigators are still trying to determine who that name belonged to, and whether Izabela was the only one who narrowly escaped something even worse. They thought the killer was behind bars, but sometimes the most terrifying part of a crime is realizing how long it was planned and how close it came to happening again. If you think this case was disturbing, wait until you see what's next, because some secrets aren't buried under concrete, they're buried in people, and those are the hardest ones to dig up. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4. The name beneath the scratch marks. When the public heard there was a second name in the notebook, the reaction was immediate. Speculation flooded headlines. Talk shows dissected motives. Online forums hunted identities. But inside the Derby Major Crime Unit, there was no frenzy, only focus. Because a crossed-out name in a convicted murderer's private plan isn't gossip, it's a warning. The notebook had been sealed as evidence, its pages carefully flattened and scanned. Forensic enhancement revealed the indented lettering beneath the heavy scratch marks. It took days of light-angle photography and digital contrast layering before the letters became legible. 6 characters, a woman's name, Katarzyna. Detective Hensley felt a chill when it appeared clearly on the screen. The name wasn't random. Katarzyna Lewandowski had lived in Derby in 2009. She had also dated Anna Podedworna.
And in early 2010, she had filed a minor police complaint, later withdrawn, alleging harassment after their breakup. At the time, it hadn't seemed serious. No violence reported, no injuries documented, just obsessive phone calls, threatening messages, a claim that Anna had shown up at her workplace unannounced. The complaint was closed within weeks. Katarzyna moved to Manchester, then back to Poland. No further incidents. Until now. When British authorities contacted her, Katarzyna hesitated before agreeing to speak. Over video call, her face carried the weight of someone who had once escaped something she didn't fully understand. "She scared me," Katarzyna admitted quietly. "Not because she hit me, she never did, but because of how she watched me." Watched. The word lingered. Katarzyna described how Anna reacted when she tried to leave the relationship. Calm at first, then persuasive, then possessive. "You don't leave me," Anna had told her once. "People don't walk away from what belongs to me." Katarzyna had laughed it off at the time, until Anna began sending detailed messages about her daily routine, what bus she took, when she clocked out, who she spoke to at lunch. It felt less like love, more like surveillance. Katarzyna left the city within months, changed numbers, blocked every contact. She never knew Izabela, but when she saw the headlines years later, she felt something she couldn't name. Relief and guilt. Relief that she had left, guilt that someone else hadn't. Investigators compared timelines. The notebook entry listing Katarzyna's name was dated February 2010, 6 months before Izabela's murder. Below the name were 2 columns, one labeled risk, the other labeled cost. Under risk, temper, unpredictable, talks too much. Under cost, minimal payout, high visibility.
Then the name was scratched out, hard, almost violently, as if reconsidered, as if recalculated. Detectives now believed Izabela wasn't a sudden victim of jealousy. She was the chosen option. Higher insurance coverage, shared finances, immigration leverage. Katarzyna had been spared not out of mercy, but because the numbers didn't favor it. And that realization shook even seasoned investigators, because it meant Anna didn't just kill in rage. She selected, evaluated, weighed outcomes. The Crown Prosecution Service reviewed whether additional charges could apply: conspiracy, attempted fraud beyond what was already prosecuted. But with Anna already serving life, the practical outcome wouldn't change. Still, understanding the full scope mattered, because patterns predict behavior, and patterns can prevent future victims. Prison psychologists began in-depth evaluations. Anna maintained her original claim: self-defense, panic, loss of control. She denied the notebook reflected real intent. "It was just thoughts," she said during one session. "Everyone has dark thoughts." But most people don't research how long concrete takes to cure. Most people don't draft cost-benefit columns next to someone's name. Most people don't keep passports in buried toolboxes. And as investigators widened their lens, something else surfaced. A former co-worker from the meat processing plant reported an incident from 2008. Anna had once described how easy it was to separate parts cleanly if you know the joints.
At the time, it was shop talk. Years later, it felt instructional. Izabela's family returned to Poland with her remains. The funeral was small, private. Her mother placed the broken gold necklace beside the urn, repaired but still fragile, because some breaks never fully mend. At the service, one sentence echoed through the chapel: she wanted a new life. That's what she had told everyone before moving: a new life. Instead, she became part of someone else's contingency plan. Months after the verdict, the house on Princess Street was sold again. Developers removed the remaining concrete, re-landscaped the garden, planted new grass. Children eventually played there, unaware. And maybe that's the cruelest part of crimes like this. Life continues above what once happened. People walk across buried history. They build patios over secrets. They sleep in rooms where someone once fought for breath. The world doesn't pause. It rarely even notices, unless the truth is forced into daylight. Detective Hensley visited the site one final time before retirement. He stood where the slab had been, closed his eyes, and imagined the night of August 28, 2010. The argument upstairs, the hammer strike, the tape, the dragging, the calculated cleanup. He didn't see a monster in his mind. He saw something more unsettling, ordinary. That's what disturbed him most. Anna had neighbors, co-workers, conversations at the market, small talk over fences. Nothing in her daily presentation screamed danger, which meant the real lesson of the case wasn't about brutality. It was about concealment, about how control can look like composure, how planning can masquerade as stability, how someone can build a home over a grave and live above it for years without flinching. In her final recorded prison assessment before transfer to a long-term facility, Anna was asked whether she felt remorse. She paused longer than usual, then said, "I regret getting caught." The psychologist ended the session early, because that wasn't remorse. That was frustration. And in that single sentence, 15 years of silence made sense. Izabela hadn't been a partner in Anna's mind. She had been an obstacle, and obstacles in Anna's logic were removed. The second name in the notebook remains a chilling footnote:
a reminder that choice was involved, that there was calculation before violence, and perhaps if one variable had shifted, insurance, documentation, leverage, another garden somewhere might have been dug up instead. Anna Podedworna will spend decades behind bars. Izabela Zablocka will never turn 31. Concrete can preserve a body, but it cannot protect a lie forever. And somewhere in Derby, under layers of renovated earth and replaced stone, there's a quiet reminder of that truth. Because the most terrifying criminals aren't always driven by fury. Some are driven by spreadsheets, by timelines, by plans written in neat handwriting. They don't explode, they execute. And if there's one thing this case proved, it's this: evil doesn't always arrive screaming. Sometimes it builds foundations. Sometimes it waits. And sometimes it almost chooses someone else. If this story unsettled you, remember it the next time someone says they seemed normal. The most dangerous secrets are the ones built into the floor beneath your feet. And not every foundation is as solid as it looks.